This is question number 11 of homework 11 for chapter 10. Review the graph at the right. How much is the consumer surplus in the case of a single price monopoly? So in this graph we are given the demand curve. In this case is the demand line. We are also given the marginal revenue line and as well as the marginal cost curve or line. So to maximize the profit, we know that any firm has to equate marginal revenue with the marginal cost. So for monopoly, that's captured graphically, that's captured by the intersection of this marginal revenue curve and the marginal cost curve. So that's this point here. And that determines the output, which is 30, and for the price, that's determined by the corresponding price on the demand curve, corresponding to the 30 here, so that's 60. The question is, what is the consumer surplus of a single price monopoly? When the price is 60, we know that consumer surplus is captured by the distance between the demand curve and the price it charges. Graphically speaking, that's the triangle area here. So the triangle with 3 points, one is 90, that's the vertical intercept of the demand curve. And the second point is 60, the price both with 0 output. And the third point is the output is 30 and price is 60. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 of the product of length and height. And length is 60 and height is also 60. So we can do this consumer surplus under monopoly. That's 1/2 times 30 times 30. So 30 times 30, that's 900, divided by 2, that's 450. So that's 450. And that's the answer, 450. That's the consumer surplus under the single price monopoly. We're done. Now continue. How much is the consumer surplus in the case of a first degree price discriminating monopoly? So in this case, we know that if the monopoly has a first degree price discrimination, that means the monopoly can charge a price which is exactly the same as the consumer's willingness to pay. So each consumer receives a different price corresponding to her willingness to pay, and that's captured by this demand curve. So in this regard, there's no distance between the price consumers pays and the willingness to pay. Hence, the consumer surplus under this case is 0. Check my answer. The third part, how much is the producer surplus in a case of a single price monopoly? So let's go back to the single price monopoly. We know that the price is $60 and the quantity is 30. So the producer surplus is captured by the distance between the price and the marginal cost curve. So graphically speaking, this is captured by this trapezoid. So the trapezoid, we know that we can basically separate this trapezoid into 2 parts. If we draw a line here, horizontal line here. So the first part is this area. This is a rectangle. Actually, a closer look suggests that this is a square because both length is 30. And the second part of this trapezoid is this triangle. Again, both the height and the length is 30. But as we just said, the area of a triangle, to calculate that area, we need to divide the product of the length and height by 2. So we add up these two parts, and that's our producer surplus. So producer surplus under the single price monopoly case, that's 30 times 30. So that's the first part, which means this is the square. This is the square part, 30 times 30, the square part of this producer surplus. And now the triangle area of this producer surplus, we have to divide this by 1/2. 1/2 times 30 times 30. So this is 30 times 30, that's 900, plus 900 divided by 2, that's 450. So 900 plus 450, that's 1350. So let's put down this number, 1350. We're done. For a first degree price discriminating monopoly, the producer surplus is, so now because the producer can charge a price which is exactly the same as the consumer's willingness to pay. So basically the price will be this demand curve, and the marginal cost curve is here. So now the producer surplus, this whole triangle area, which is actually including the two parts we just calculated, the triangle area, which represents the consumer surplus, and this trapezoid, which represents the producer surplus, and this area, and we know that that's for a single price monopoly, that's actually the deadweight loss. So to calculate this whole area, we can actually use two ways. We can use first the way we can, because this is a triangle, so we can again use the formula for the area of a triangle, which is the length multiplied by the height and divide that by 2, and that's one way. The second way is, since we already calculated this consumer surplus and the producer surplus, so for the total producer surplus under the first degree price discrimination, we just need to calculate the deadweight loss, which is this smaller triangle area. So for the smaller triangle area, actually let's use the second way, because later on they're going to ask us what's the deadweight loss under the single price monopoly. So by using the second way, we can actually do two questions with just one calculation. So this triangle area, the length, the bottom length is the distance between 30 and 60, that's 30, and the height is the distance between the 30 and this intersection of the demand curve and the marginal cost curve. And the number here tells us that the distance, the output is 45. So the distance is between the 30 and the 45, which is 15. So the deadweight loss under the monopoly, that's 1/2, again because this is a triangle, times 30. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is 30. Yeah. And the height is 15. So 30 times 15, that's 450, divided by 2, that gives me 225. So this is the deadweight loss, but this question is asking us the producer surplus under the first degree price discrimination. So we just need to add up the consumer surplus under the single price monopoly and the producer surplus under the single price monopoly, which we just calculated, which is 450 plus 1350, that gives me 1800, and then plus 225, so that gives me 2025. Excellent. So how much is the deadweight loss in the case of a single price monopoly? We just calculated that to 25. And finally, how much is the deadweight loss in the case of a first degree price discriminating monopoly? So in this case, because actually the producer captures all the supplies, so there's no deadweight loss. So from the society's point of view, there's no deadweight loss because each of the consumers who need to pay a price higher than the marginal cost can get the product from the producer, even though the producer captures all the supplies. But from the society's point of view, there's no deadweight loss. So again, the deadweight loss is 0. Excellent.